Evening, everybody. Welcome to the Patchwork Challenge update for March on the 27th of April. So apologies, we're a little bit late this month. Trying to coordinate a number of people together on the same evening has proved challenging. So you'll have to cast your minds back to what you saw in March, rather than hopefully your submissions for April, which will be coming shortly. So with no more further ado, I should do introductions. We have James, who you'll be familiar with from the previous podcasts. And we've got John Bowler with us, who is a stalwart of Patchwork Challenge since the very first one in 2013. And for anybody who ever read any of the articles on best finds over the first few years, you'll know he featured very heavily in most of those. Patches on Tiree, some fabulous birds up there. If you ever follow him on Twitter, you'll see some absolutely superb finds over the years, which we will, I'm sure, be talking about a few of those very shortly. But also some brilliant patch gold as well, with it being a Scottish island. So with no more ado, I shall introduce John. And John, if you want to say a few words, introduce yourself.
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah, thanks guys for having me on. That's a great opportunity. Yeah, my name's John Bowler, and I've been on Tiree for the last 20 years or so, as the RSPB officer here, and birding. I happen to be a birder, and I think I've been involved in the Patchwork Challenge pretty much from the start. Just a real extension to just birding here generally. I just find it's a really good thing to do, and it encourages me to get out 1st of Jan. It gets you excited about doing your list every time, and every year's been different. You know, it's been a great experience. And yeah, we'll have a look at the patch and talk about some of the birds, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic. Excellent. So I don't know if James, if you want to pull the presentation up.
Yeah, 1 second. I will just
get
that up and running. Let's just tell me when you can see that. All right.
Yeah, that's looking good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Excellent. So we'll just give you a quick run through what we're going to talk about tonight. So the running order, obviously, we're going to talk to John straight away. Then we're going to do some mini leagues in the normal way, on to best finds, more mini leagues, a bit of court of appeal. So we're going to touch on what we did in terms of the polls last month, and also a couple of questions and appeals this month. We've got the big debate, even more mini leagues, because you know that's what we're all about, and then we're finishing up with patch gold, some confusion, the top 10s, and then we've got March, might as well be April predictions. This seems strangely reminiscent of last month. Right, without further ado, we'll keep going.
So yeah, so over to you, John, a little bit here. So we've got the first of the photos you provided there on the front page. So if you want to talk us through your patch a little bit and what that's showing.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I don't know if you guys know where Tiree is. I'm sure I didn't actually know where it was until I got the job here. It's the outermost of the Inner Hebrides, so not quite Outer Hebridean, but a lot of it has that kind of feel to it. We can see Barra on a good day to the north. We're kind of out from Mull, so it's a very oceanic island. It's a great place for lots of reasons. You know, it's an island in itself. That's always good for picking up migrants, but it's a very rich habitat. So we have lots of breeding birds, lots of wintering birds too. We've already get frost, so it's just a very rich place for bird finding generally, and it's just been a joy to be here. This picture is actually of a place called Carnan Moor, which is a little, I call it the wood, but it really is only a bunch of hawthorns and a few eared willows. And that's the extent of native woodland on the island. It's very much an island of grass. For those who've been here, it's very flat, it's very windy, and any trees and bushes have long gone. It's a grazing island for livestock, and it's very rich. I mean, that's a crofting landscape that's full of corncrakes, breeding waders, wintering geese. It's a really special place. And I moved to the house in the background. There is my house actually at Balafall. Having learned that this was the place to be, really. This was Rarity Road. I was birding around the island and always ended up in this patch. It just seems to be the place that gets birds. So Carnan Moor was my first stomping ground, looking into those bushes for rare migrants. And this is a bit old, this picture, but the trees have grown up and there's a lot more cover in my garden and my neighbour's garden as well. And actually a lot of the birds now just come to me, which makes life even easier.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's the kind of landscape we've got. Very open. It's grassland essentially, and just the odd bush. It makes bird finding very easy for passerine because they get very focused in these bushes here.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think about the amount of cover that I've got on my patch. That makes it much easier for you, I think, in terms of rooting anything out.
Definitely. This is another really key part of my patch. This is Loch Full, which is a kind of mesotrophic maca loch, shallow, warms up very quickly, and is really just naturally rich. It's a triple SI for its pondweeds, but it just has a really rich variety of breeding wetland birds, lots of waders, lots of ducks, a really good range actually for the Hebrides. We have things like gadwall, shoveler, Gargany sometimes, pintail, so it's a real hotspot down there. January the 1st, see what's wintering, lots of diving ducks out here. And when it floods, this is actually the fence line there is where the loch edge should be, but quite often it floods in the winter. And where you get these flooded fringes, just fantastic for gulls, waders. Yeah, and in October, if this happens in October, that's perfect, and then we'll get American waders in there almost every autumn. American golden plover, buff breasts, peck sands. Yeah, that's another great patch.
Oh, that's brilliant. And this is a nice sunlit picture. Looks very picturesque. Whereabouts is this then, John?
So if you imagine where I live, the hill is actually between this rocky shore and off to the right. That's Ben Heinisch. That's the main hill on the island, and we live in the lee of that. That's why we got the odd tree and bush. Loch Full is just to the north, and then this is Tiree, which is the nearest beach. So that's part of my patch. Not the greatest sea watching in the world, but that's a coastal habitat. So wintering purple sands, diving duck in the bay, divers, little auks blown in sometimes. So it just adds more variety to the patch. Lack of bushes, as you can see, there's absolutely no cover for migrants here, so they will clear around to the back of the hill where I live.
It does look like that might be a little bit of a challenge here, but that scenery is fantastic, and obviously having a bit of a bay, those storm-driven waves will sort of just collect in there for you, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, and this is back to the bush patch at Carnarvon. This was September 2010, and this was a twitch. It's very rare that we get a bird big enough to get people out, but this was the northern parula, first to Scotland, and yeah, that drew the crowds. And there's probably some names you might recognize in there. I think that's Angus Murray on the scope, and I think that's Richard Bonser, actually, the tall guy at the back. Yeah, and this was the first day. It was turned up on the Saturday. Sunday, these guys chartered a plane. They were straight up to get this bird, and then it stayed for another 4 or 5 days, I think, and quite a lot of people managed to twitch it. And unfortunately, it came into the garden as well, so I got it on my garden list.
Oh, wow.
Your garden list must be as good as any in the country, I'm sure.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty good, I guess, and it's all down to the fact that I moved to this location. It just was the place to be, and I was very lucky. There was a ruin there. We managed to build a house in that spot, and yeah, the birds come to us now, and including this one on the roses I planted a few years before. So yeah, one of the
spectacular bird, isn't it? It really is. Did your Twitter name come from finding this bird then?
It did indeed. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it wasn't long after finding this bird I joined Twitter, and seemed to be the thing to do. Yellow-bellied flycatcher just doesn't do it for me. I couldn't have a Twitter handle around that.
It's a bit clunky, but that's fantastic. I mean, I remember seeing this when you found it, and obviously it was a bit far for me to travel, but just being absolutely blown away, like all of these American wood warblers. They're also Gordian, I think. Probably Parulas are one of the best for me. So really, really fantastic find, and something to be very jealous of in the garden.
I was going to say, yeah. I was happy with the tree sparrow the other day, but Northern Parula would really do it.
Tell us about this one, because this was a bit of a sneaky one, wasn't it?
Well, in the sense that it was during lockdown, so it made life a bit tricky for me in a way, but it kind of worked out all right in the end. So yeah, I mean, I just literally opened the curtains one morning, cup of tea in hand, see what's in the garden, and there's an Empidonax flycatcher sitting out there. It happens occasionally. Yeah, so and quite quickly I knew what it was. I've seen yellow belly before in other places, and realized I had a first of the Western Palearctic on my hands, and we hadn't had COVID on the island at that point. It was widespread on the mainland. A lot of concerns, and yeah, we decided not to put the news out, but it got out anyway. That's all I'm going to say. The news got out, and therefore we had to manage a Twitch. And in the end, it was fine. We did a COVID-friendly Twitch. I got the Tiree Ranger involved with that, Haley Douglas, and our neighbours as well, very accommodating with the car parking and stuff. And yeah, everyone who came wanted to see it, got to see it, and no one on the island got COVID from it. So it was all good in the end. But yeah, quite stressful. 9 days that it stayed. My wife got pretty fed up with people out there all the time, so willing it to go each day, and it didn't, and then eventually it did. And yeah, it chose a good night to go. I think it would have been well fed up on all the honeybees it was eating and stuff. So hopefully it got wherever it wanted to go after this. Yeah.
That's cracking. I mean, obviously, it's an absolute dream to find a first for Britain, first for the Western Pal, even better. And just by opening your curtains over a coffee is a pretty good way to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting as well, though, to think if it's your patch and things, and it does happen on your patch, and then having to manage that in your own environment as well comes with its own pressures and stresses.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I guess it's a bit unusual in the sense, I mean, a lot of people don't live bang on their patch, do they? They kind of go to other places to do their patch watching, and there's huge advantages in living on your patch, because you find most birds where you spend most time. So if you live in a good spot, it makes sense to have your patch there. But obviously not everyone can live in a good spot. That's life, isn't it? But yeah, huge advantage. But the downside is occasionally you get something like that where it's tricky to know what exactly to do with it. Yeah.
And then I wanted to throw this one in. So we had two obviously absolute megas to demonstrate Tiree. But I think one of the interesting things about Tiree is the fact that some of the really rare stuff and the exciting stuff that will get you going is the stuff that in an inland north patch they'll have on the 1st of January for the majority.
Absolutely.
So I always think that's a fascinating aspect.
Every patch is different, I guess, isn't it? And yeah, so I take for granted species that others would maybe really dream for on their patch, but like breeding corncrakes, or I don't know, Pexans, things like that, just absolutely expected every year. Whereas a stock dove, that's a mega out this way, and that was this spring, and yeah, I mean that really stopped me in my tracks. Far more exciting than a ringneck duck or a ring-billed gull or something. That's stock dove out here. That's brilliant. And this year so far has been really good for not rarities, but just unusual birds for me on the patch. So things like stock dove and velvet scoter that Keith Gillen found, and redneck grebe. Yeah, just a whole range of species. A bullfinch. I mean, I haven't seen a bullfinch here for years, and there was a male bullfinch in the garden the other day. Fantastic. It's 1 point, but for me, that's a that's a great sighting. So
that's amazing. Sorry, John. And just to give a bit of context, how many stock doves have you seen on Tiree?
That is my third stock dove in 21 years. Yeah.
And peck sandpipers, 30, 40?
30, 40. I lose track. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's a properly good patch bird, and it's definitely comes under the sort of patch gold heading, I think, that one. So I think is that the last?
I think that draws it in terms of pictures. Yeah, that draws it to a close, but we won't move on to mini leagues quite yet. A few questions for you, John, to go through on your patch.
Sure.
So what are your top 5 birds that you've had on patch? So they can be anything from your patch golds to your proper rarities.
Okay, so I gave this some thought. So a yellow belly flycatcher, it has to be number 1. I can't see why it wouldn't be, really. And then northern pruler, I guess, is number 2. I've made a list somewhere. I was thinking about this. It gets harder. So those are kind of first for Scotland, whatever. Collared flycatcher, probably that's the first for the kind of southwest Scotland. Nice male in the spring. And then a Hume's warbler I had, which is first for the Hebrides. I was really quite pleased with that as well. I know they also runs for number 5. I don't know. Swainson's Thrush, Rose-breasted Grosbeak, Brown Shrike, Black Duck, Western Benelli's. You could go on Pine Bunting. I don't know. One of those, I guess.
I think James and I both winced at Rose-breasted Grosbeak. I think that's the I'd love that.
They are. That's the who's who of birds you want to find, isn't it? Anywhere to find them, not only on your patch, but some of them in your garden. It's. I hate to say it, John. It's a little bit sickening, but no, we're very jealous. And look, we've always loved seeing your updates. It's one of those things that behind the scenes we talk about. Those people that regularly enter. All nice things, obviously, but it was really, really good to have you on and to actually hear you talking about these things and to hear it in your own words, because we've seen the pictures of the collared fly and we've seen the pictures of both the flycatcher and the parula. One thing I wanted to know though was what's your most wanted? What haven't you got yet, and what would you like to find?
So hoopoo. I mean, that's a species that has occurred several times before I arrived on Tiree. It's occurred at least 3 or 4 times since I've been here, and I've just managed to miss them for whatever reason. So yeah, hoopoo would be a really nice bird to find here. Not a first for Tiree or Argyll, but just a good bird for me on the patch.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic.
Mark Lewis, our regular host, has just had one actually only yesterday. So I'm sure he'd have been gloating at this moment after your talk of flycatchers and parulas, I'm sure.
Well, it serves him right. That's why he's got his Wi-Fi failure today, isn't it? So that's why he's not with us. But no, that really is a great bird. Really surprising. Obviously, your patch has those kind of southern and western kind of arrivals, which sort of make it seem a bit different to quite a lot of the other Scottish islands, particularly the ones we'll hear about with Fair Isle and up on mainland Shetland, what have you. And I'm sure we'll hear lots about those places as we get into May and June, when it warms up a little bit to 9 degrees up there, and they're dripping in all sorts of good stuff, river warblers and Blythe Reed warblers in every bush. But it's quite a different assemblage that you get compared to those guys, and it seems quite surprising to me that hoopoo's still one of those ones that hasn't landed. In terms of patch gold and the best, what's the best non-rarity you've found then?
That's a good question. Blue tit, my first blue tit was very exciting. I mean, it's amazing how you don't appreciate these birds when you see them all the time, but when you haven't seen a blue tit for a year and then there's one all of a sudden in your garden, and that's quite something actually. Yeah, it just makes you reassess the value of birds, and if they're rare on your patch, doesn't matter if they're common everywhere else, then that's a top bird, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Fantastic.
And what would be your most wanted patch gold? So is there something missing that?
I did think of something. Actually, there is one, and it seems a strange one, but corn bunting. So corn bunting essentially went extinct the year before I arrived. And when I got to Central Island, Helipole, where we first stayed, the starlings were still doing corn bunting impressions, but the corn buntings had gone. So that kind of felt, yeah, it would be really nice to get another corn bunting. They're declining on the outer hebs. They're doing badly, but there's always a chance that one could drop in, and that would be really nice. It's a species that should be here, and we've lost the corn essentially, and that's why they've gone. But it would be nice to get one back. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. I wonder. I guess a good breeding season on the outer hebs or something like that is probably your best bet, sort of post-juvenile dispersal, I imagine. But fingers crossed for you in the coming summer. I guess we'd better sort of start shuffling into the mini leagues, Pete. What do you think?
So I think the tension's building, isn't it?
Yeah. So. Thanks very much, John, for that. I'll
You're
let
welcome.
you talk us through the first set of mini leagues then, Pete.
Okay, doke. I don't know who we got first. Coastal East England. So this is the 10 kilometres patch. We've got Nigel Lound, Gibraltar Point. He's another stalwart of the competition who's been in for a long time. So he's in top spot at the moment. We've got Jake Gearty in second, who had a big spotted cuckoo, as he's put in his highlights. We've got Buick Swan for James Brown at Hopton in third place. And then we've got the King Ida at Redcar, which Mark Askew managed to get into his 10-kilometre patch, which has been there most of the winter, but it's departed now. I think there was one towards the Isle of May, wasn't there, only the other week? So that was the departing Redcar bird.
Oh, fantastic! I failed to get up there for that. So
so did I as well. I've got no
not far
excuse.
from us.
It's only half an hour away. So then into the coastal East England. So this is the 3-kilometre league. So last month, Mark Golly at Cly, he's been top January, February. He's done it in March as well. 192 points, just shy of the 200 mark. So he had a fly over Osprey was his highlight, and a wild Dutch white stork. So very hard to prove provenance of white storks in this country. But as we'll see later on, that one came with evidence. Tim Hodge at Horsey in second. He's always near the top of this league. Quiet month for him though, but 3 Ravens, never easy in that part of the world, and Spoonbill the highlights. And then Jacob Spinks at Spurn is in third, so the big hitter at Spurn is starting to go up the table, which I'm sure we'll see over the course of the next few months. And his Dartford Warbler we'll be talking about later on. In terms of other highlights in the league, we've got Common Crane, Black Red Start and Glork at Bulmer. Buick Swan again. Some of these may be sort of from January, February as well, and Goosehead at Lowestoft. And then Justin has had at Felixstowe, Spoonbill, Log-Eared Owl, Water Pipit and Raven. So again, good finds in those patches. Some white wingers, so Tynemouth and Flamborough both had Iceland Gull, and Alpine Swift. We'll see a few of those as we go through. I think normally we're picking those out, but there's a good number this month, to say the least, in March. 2 together though for Rob Little at Flamborough, and a couple of cranes. So at the moment, we'll see it on Twitter recently as well. They're starting to tour the country. Again, white wingers, colour coats, Tynemouth for Iceland Gull there. Another 2 Alpine Swifts, but again, that's Rob Little, Flamborough South. So I think that's probably the same ones, but one's a garden tick, so it always gets an extra, no bonus points, but an extra appreciation. A herring gull at Barmston for James Spencer. Nice Caspian gull. Is that your first on patch?
Yeah, it was my first one. It's the first
Excellent.
one. Yeah.
Oh, well done. I take it back about herring gull. Mark Askew at Stays had Ravens, which is his first patch Ravens up there. I wish he pushed them a little bit further south for me, but they've not come to my patch yet. And then finally another garden tick Alpine Swift for Paul French in Easington. And finally Will Scott, another Alpine Swift at Bempton Lake Cliffs. They were touring the East Coast in March. Okay, and then on to the next league.
Yeah, there's not a lot in the third slide for Coastal East England.
No, just highlight the highlights. So this is Daniel Newton, who's really put himself in a competitive league. I think we've tried in both months to encourage others, but it's not worked so far. So he's still top of the table at RSPB Wow at Belfast Loch, and Iceland Gull again. White wingers in March. Seems to be quite a few people that have managed to get those, and Pintail patch silver. So not quite patch gold, but a bit of patch silver.
Got to appreciate the patch silver.
Indeed. Coastal Scotland. So again, we've got Rob and Nina at Nibster in Caithness. Rob is now expanding his lead at the top there, so there's going to be some fair competition over the next few months. And Julian Smith at Danette Bay there in third place, but all good scores for that part of the world. And then Coastal Scotland 3-kilometre league. So Colin Davison at the top. So he's now expanding his lead quite a way ahead with 131 points. And Andrew Whewell in North Berwick East with 108 points. 4 patches now over 100 points in here, which is good. And Merlin and Snowbunting at North Berwick East, both nice to pick up before we see the winter out.
Yeah, I notice someone's lagging in 10th.
Oh, I should have picked that up, shouldn't I, really? So we should highlight, Mark Lewis at Girdleness. 63 points. So,
Our fearless leader making hay.
Yeah, I think my little inland North Lockton patch has got more points than that at the moment.
Yeah.
But not for long, I'm sure, given the spring he's going to have. So I won't gloat too much, because next month it might be different.
Just as a general point, it seems to me that the Scottish leagues always start off a bit slow because spring migration and stuff kind of hits later on. So it's kind of it's a build up, isn't it? So they kind of catch up.
Yeah, so your coastal south have got all of the spring migrants already, and all hitting way over 100 points already.
I was talking to Ryan about this earlier today, and he was complaining that me and a couple of our colleagues were really very glad that our whitethroats had turned up in the last couple of days. He said, I've had warblers for weeks and weeks and weeks. What you all getting happy about? So, but anyway, back onto the mini league, and I'll let you keep going, Pete.
Indeed, coastal South England 10-kilometre league, and Bob Ford at Weymouth, top of the table, 146 points, and AB Bob Johns, who's another Titchfield Haven. It's been in this competition a long time. 136 points. It's becoming quite an epic competition, actually, with Andrew Culshaw at North Creek in third at 134 points. So some really good point scoring to have that many over 100 points at this stage. We've got that long-billed Dowitcher, which has been hanging around sort of that North Creek sort of Cly area, still there. And Chris Townend, Gargany, so starting to get into those, and then the White Wingers, a couple of Glaucus skulls this time, and Alpine Swift scoped from my house at Falmouth. So nothing wrong with scoping from your patch.
Absolutely not. But good to see the first few migrants just starting to appear here in the southern coastal south.
Indeed, and then coastal south in terms of the 3-kilometre league. So Joe Stockwell, who did that nice video for us and talked through his patch at the start of the year. So he's topped 150 points now. So this is a good example, I think, of exactly what you were saying, John, about a lot of those spring migrants already coming through down there. 3 common Hirodines in March. No Alpine Swifts, however, Joe, so must try harder. But patch tick hooded crow, so one from the north going south, and the first grey lag for years, so that should have hit patch gold, but I don't think he had a hashtag patch gold as far as I'm aware. So that's a late candidate, which won't be in the slides later on.
No.
So Joe, and then we've got Ryan. We won't mention Ryan, will we? Should we just move past Ryan in a second?
Well, he's in Spain or something, isn't he?
Yeah, no highlights. But Ryan's doing very well in second. That's obviously his new patch in Cornwall. Stacks of warblers, as he's been saying. So it's really paying off his score at the moment, and he's putting a lot of effort down there. Steve Waite at the Accessory in third. In terms of other highlights, so Amy Robjohns at Titchfield, Spring Migrants, Great White Egret. Obviously, they're becoming a little bit easier these days than they used to be. Kevin Ryland's first Glauc for 5 years, and 3 Alpine Swifts. It seems to be actually competing on the numbers of Alpine Swifts, aren't we?
You're getting no more points for 3, I can tell you that.
Absolutely, but then we must notice the tufted duck in the highlights as well for Dawlish.
Absolutely key there.
Again, another little bit of patch goal going on in there. Barton on C for Steve Keane. Coot, classic patch gold, still hanging on with its little green buddy. So nice story going on down there.
Snuck some April stuff in there.
We've
got to move past that.
Yeah, we need to demote him for that. I reckon we take some points off and knock him down a couple of spots. Gavin Haig at West Bay, so Little Gull, Firecrest, patch tick red leg partridge on the coast path.
Straight out the coop.
Yeah, the Firecrest's exciting, but the red leg partridge is the real air puncher. Mark Whitaker at Par Beach and Paul Alpine Swift, and a couple of Alpine Swift to Kevin Ryland's first fine tick in 5 years for him there. But he's also had Ring-Bill Gull, first Devon record for 8 years. So he's had a very good month in
He's
March.
Done all right. Out of his window as well, his Timoth window. That's very impressive.
Yes, indeed. He had a Barwick naked knock me. I'm not going to go into that. I don't think we'll move on.
Let's not talk about naked knock me. Not again.
No. I think.
Right, down the bottom.
And then just as you can see, a few more patches there. No highlights to mention in March.
Okay, moving into Wales.
Coastal Wales. So Dave Aston's at the Gann in Dale Airfield. So we worked out where in January, I think, where the Gann and Dale Airfield were. Nice site.
We did.
And he had a self-found Caspian gull, which is a Welsh rarity by all accounts. So it was very much his highlight.
Well done.
And his Ida was a patch first. So a good month there. And he's doing very well at 113 points. Cardiff Bay, Peter Howlett, Firecrest really the only highlight of the month. And then a bit of movement and a yellow leg gull for Alex Jones at Rill in third place. And then Joel Tregan, we should mention it, the Bicol teal that he had there. It was February, but it's in his highlights. But there's some superb pictures of that on Twitter. So if you haven't seen the pictures of it, it's well worth seeking out. That is the close-up picture, not his very, very distant one that he
right.
Coastal Wales, 10-kilometre lead, just 3 patches in here. A big lead from Matt Bower there, Abergele. No real highlights of note. And then Coastal West England, so Jane Turner, Hoylake Shaw, another one that's been in the competition for a long time. Alpine Swifts, not a house tick, so it's obviously had that before. Second Stone Chat in 23 years. Osprey, Pheasant in capital letters. We'll come across that later in patch gold. And I think the Plastic Woody Shell Duck, technically house tick, but no, I think that one didn't get on the list.
But yes, I think the whole of the D, that bird.
I think Jane is
everyone on the D's had that, Welsh and English side, so absolutely disgusting.
Amazing achievement. It's all from home, 107 points and everything from the house. So it's really quite an achievement. And Sean O'Hara and Pierre Monteith continue their battle, although there's a big gap now. They're growing. I think back in January there was just a couple of points in it. That's now a growing gap in second and third. And Coastal, yes, another one with just one person in it, but again, broken the 100 points barrier.
Okay, got a break.
All right. So best birds. So there weren't that many finds in March actually, so we've kind of thrown in a few best birds as well. So not necessarily finds in here. Obviously, there's a lot of finds, but in terms of like really marked species finds, there weren't so many. But there were some real standouts in terms of just fantastic birds to have on your patch.
Right, so Scott Reed, be happy. He won't like people twitching on their own patch. That's outrageous behaviour. But yeah. I think we'll forgive Scott. What do you reckon?
I think with the lesser kestrel that looks like this one does, yeah, I think absolutely. What a belting bird that is. Some great video clips of it online as well, that Scott's done too. The 5th lesser kestrel for Silly, but only the 3rd modern record, following individuals in 2002 and 2020, as it says on his tweet there. So absolutely brilliant start to the spring.
Fantastic. Got to be one on your radar, John.
Kestrel is rare enough, to be honest, out here. So yeah, I check them all whenever they turn up.
It's a very wise decision. Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Okay, and then some others. So Gary Crowder. So he found an Oldham ring-billed gull at Cowlishaw, which is a fantastic inland find. I mean, I think as an inland birder for so many years, it always catches my imagination when inland birds in particular pick up notable species. I think, you know, often on the coast you can pick these things up, but it's a really good find. That
I think ring-billed gull is just, I mean, it's so rare for new ring-billed gulls to turn up these days. It's a really, really good find anywhere. So in Oldham, fantastic.
On building work, so what 3 words? Trade, finishing, energy. All sounds very industrial. But,
it does, doesn't it?
Brilliant find, just as Simon Warford says underneath. So next one, you want to talk us through it? So I think you do feature a few times in this presentation. The Todd's Canada that you have.
Okay. Yeah, so I always rely on rare birds wintering on the island so that I can get those in January, you know, so you get them again. And normally we have Todd's Canada geese wintering here with the barnacle geese, and this year we didn't for some reason. And this bird just turned up out of the blue for one day when I was checking all the barneys for rings, colour rings. So yeah, very lucky with that. We very rarely get other Canada geese here, so we don't see the kind of large mainland race birds. So normally if we get them in the winter, they tend to be Todds or occasionally cackling. And this one with the barneys, yeah, it's a classic bird. But where it was going or where it came from, I have no idea. Maybe it was from Isla and it was heading north. I don't know, but just a one-day job.
Had it not been picked up on Isla then in the winter, or had there been any Canadas on there this winter?
Yeah, there were a few Todds and cackling. So yeah, I imagine it was in amongst that. But they have so many geese there, and they're so dispersed that they can be seen and then not seen again, if you know what I mean. So I imagine that's where it's from. But it's that classic kind of snaky neck that they have.
Yeah.
And just the size is just not quite, you know, a bit smaller, a little bit darker breasted. That's a bit pale, to be honest, on the breast, but that's just the light, I'm sure. Yeah, that's a Todd's.
Yeah, fantastic. We did have a chat because Mark Lewis found quite a good Todd's candidate, but it was sadly disgracing itself in the harbour on Kintyre I think it was at Tarbert Harbour with all the Manky locals, but it did look very, very good. And we were talking about your one and how snaky necked it looked. So rakish looking bird, fantastic.
Yeah.
And then Jacob, we mentioned him earlier at Spurn. So finding a first at Spurn is really quite some achievement. It's certainly not easy to do. Typical Spurn, they had a Marmors before they had a Dartford. But certainly a bird that you probably long awaited at Spurn, but in March to come across that and find a first for Spurn, but fantastic achievement.
There's not that many records for Yorkshire, so any Dartford warbler in Yorkshire is good. A first for Spurn, fantastic. And I know Jacob's put an appeal in for something.
Indeed,
but we'll come back to that.
Backed up by Paul French as well, who tried to swing the vote.
Oh, outrageous behaviour!
Yeah,
right.
A few others. So Jake Geartu mentioned him earlier about his big spotted cuckoo. So yeah, lovely bird again. So this was one where, as he says there in his tweet, last thing expected was a nice phone call from somebody to tell him it was there 10 minutes from home. So yeah, very nice early spring migrant.
Yeah, fantastic.
And then we talked earlier as well about the white stork with some proven provenance from a Dutch project with a coded ring. So waiting a little bit more information, it says there, but I think later on that information came through. So yeah, very good for Mark Golly, who again, as we saw earlier, is doing really well in that league.
Yeah, we were really keen to say no, but it's a bit hard when the ring comes from the Netherlands, isn't it?
I think they're hard to prove. There's a lot of them flying around at the moment and a lot of records of them. And then honourable mentions, just a few here. So Alpine Swift recorded from 11 patches. Normally we may well have that separately, but there's so many of them around. Yeah. 2 ringneck duck for those two guys, Sean and Connor. The King Ida we mentioned earlier for Mark Askew at Redcar, and Caspian Gull for Dave Astons. And I could have thrown you in there, James, but I think the nature of the Welsh rarity status of the Caspian Gull got to.
I was going to say they're not gank in Yorkshire, but they're a lot more common in the east than they are in the west, I think. So let's not. Right, we've got here self-found bird of the month. So yeah, it's Jacob's Dartford warbler.
That was my nomination, I think. Out of all of those, I think there's some fantastic birds in there. But in terms of actually a find, so obviously the Leicester Kestrel wasn't a find.
No.
For the Patcher, this one, I think getting a first for Spurn must be a real buzz when you're out there as much as Jacob is.
I think I'd agree with you on that one. I think that's a really good find. Well done, Jacob.
Yeah, totally agree. That's a brilliant one. Yeah.
And another one I'm sure you'd take in a heartbeat, John. Although Marmora's is probably a bit more likely for you.
I suspect it is, to be honest. I'm not sure there's been a Dartford recently in Scotland. Very rare up this way. So Marmora's perhaps, maybe. Yeah.
Right, we've got the second session of mini leagues. We're just saving the third session for Ryan if he finishes his cricket nets, because we know that's got the awkward pronunciations in. So if Ryan does appear, it's all his. But for now, I'll get stuck into this one. So grab yourself another drink, perhaps something a little bit stronger. I'm just finishing off my Glenmorangie, but get yourself a fresh one. And we'll get into the Estuarine 10K League. Up the top, we've got Irene Boston at Dersingham and Snettisham. She's on 125 points. She's got a little 2-point lead over Adam Day, who's at Wareham. He's on 123, both over 100 species. And then Roger Murphy at Ken Hill on 102 points. The only highlights this month for Jonathan Dodds shorted out at Pegwell Bay. So moving into the 3K Estuarine patches, Paul Bowerman at Sevenside, another long-time competitor for Patchwork Challenge. He's on 165 already. Good grief. That's a really good score.
Big score, is that?
It is. And he's already had a couple of Ospreys and 3 Garganies in March. That's fantastic. Martin Elkett at Topsham in Devon. He's had a common crane and more Alpine Swifts and his first Finders points of the year, and he's on 138 points. That's a really, really good start down there as well. And Martin, who does an awful lot of running. I see a lot of his running tweets as he sees stuff around the estuary, doing really well at Topsham. Stuart Derbyshire in 3rd place on 132, alongside Toby Phelps at Burton Mere. I know Toby's done a little bit of dirty patch twitching this week because he's He's got on to Savvy's Warbler, Goldbill Turn, and something else. So yeah, he's definitely got some.
All at the same time, pretty much, was it?
Yeah, well, yeah. I sent him to London. He works with me. I sent him to London, and he came back and got it all just at the death. So I didn't quite manage to ruin his year. Pete Hazelwood, Oldbury Power Station, had 2 Alpine Swifts. I think they roosted on the power station, if I recall correctly. And then Adam Day had a Hooper, which is a patch mega, and a nice Merlin plucking an early San Martin out of the sky. Andy Collins, sorry, not Adam, apologies, Andy, had an Avocet at Western Shore, and Gordon Hodgson had yet another, well, probably the same Alpine Swift as Pete Hazelwood. Then Joel Tragan at Banger, he had Slav Grebe and a Goshawk. So that's a pretty good pair for a Welsh estuary. And then we'll go into the Inland North 10K League. Toby Holmes is top at Redmars Reservoirs. He's on 104 points. He's got a 15-point lead over Joe Woods in Wakefield. Chris Knight on the River Swale. He's on 75 points, but there's not a huge amount of highlights, and unsurprising for Inland North at this time of year. But a Hooper for Mike Hobson at Brighouse and a Willow Tip for Paul Brady at Ormsby Beck are both nice bits and pieces. Inland North, the main 3K league, we've got Duncan Bye at Weldrake Ings with 132 points. He's got Avocet, his second spoonbill for the site, Merlin, Gargany, and Mandarin. That's a really, really nice month.
Quite a titanic battle at Weldrake this year with, I think, with Tim Jones in 4th there.
Well, but, yeah. I think there was supposed to be a couple of others that are doing Weldrake.
I think Ollie's,
I don't think Ollie's entered any scores yet. But yeah, good to see Tim going well as well. And John Law at Dern Valley. Sorry, I've skipped over Mark Langston in the Old Moor area. So Mark and John covering similar areas. Mark's leading on 123 points over John on 117. Simon Warford got an Alpine Swift. He managed to twitch it over Elton Reservoir and got some comments go to some Dunlin and a nice cold weather movement at Skylarks, 330. Stuart Churchill at Rossington Pit got a fly over Green Sand and a Peregrine. And Gary Crowder. See, I do wonder whether an inland self-found ringbill gull should be find of the month, but
I did debate it. In fact, when I sent it across, I was edging that way actually when I sent it to Mark.
Sorry, Jacob, I'm gonna have to change my mind. But Peter's already made his decision, so officially you're okay.
Maybe it can go out for a vote.
Yeah, maybe. Paul Newton at Russops also had an Alpine Swift, Egyptian Goose, and a Mandarin. Page 2, someone's top of that. Paul Whitehouse has got a great white egret at Stanley Ferry Flash. Sean Sweeney had a few bits and pieces, including Jack Snipe and Chetties. Mark Askew also had a Chetties, so seems like they're spreading north. And in the page 3, there's not a huge amount of finds. And then Inland Scotland 10K, it looks a little bit static. Hopefully things pick up as we get into April. Inland Scotland 3K, and Luke Wake's top with 106 points. He's got an 11-point lead over Chris Pendlebury at Dunblane, who's on 95, and then Zul Batia at Loch Winnock, who's on 93. It's a nice league, this one. There's lots of people spread out through it, so it should be a good bit of competition. There's a ringneck duck for Matt Ray in northwest Glasgow, and there was a little egret for Chris Pendlebury. And I'm not sure a March redwing counts as a late redwing in Scotland. I'm sorry, Lee Hesp, but still a nice bird nonetheless. Inland South 10K, and on page 1, up in first place, we've got Hugh Venables at Northstowe Newtown. He's on 148 points, and he's got a March common turn. That's a really early bird. Marek Wolford in Reading has got a Drake Gargany, and Glyn Evans at Wivenhoe in third place on 110 points. Hugh's got a nice 32-point lead. That's going to see him well for the rest of the year. But Conor McKenzie's chasing hard. And then in fifth place, David Ellis at Welney's got had a little goal in March. Andy Sims, another long-time Patchwork Challenge birder, and one who wasn't able to get to his patch much last year due to an unfortunate accident, is now back in full health and had 4 cranes over his garden last month. Rod Popel in Cambridge. He managed a woodcock and crane as well, so decent month for those guys. And then on page 2, we've got a black kite. How did that not make best finds, Pete?
I don't know, actually. I think you did have it down, actually.
Oh, well done.
It's my hasty PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah. Some would say this is just thrown together. Mark Whittaker, well done at Wheel, Alfred. That's and Hale. That's a really good bird. Self-found black kite. Now we're into the inland south. Sean Davis at Hamwell. He's got a ridiculous patch. I know he's seen loads more stuff, and he's on 167 points already. He found a ringneck duck in March. Nick Parsons in second on 133. Is on Thin Gruel, which includes Meggold and White-fronted Goose and Wheatear and Little Ring Plover. Nick doesn't know what Thin Gruel is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd take some of those.
Drew Linus at Strumpshaw had a dotterel, another early bird, really, really nice. And then he's also had some patch gold in the form of a yellowhammer. And I guess it's one of those things, if you've got yellowhammers, they'll be very, very familiar to you. But if you don't have yellowhammers, they're not going to turn up very often. So that's really, really nice. Adam Bassett's had a kittiwake, really, really a pleasant bird inland, but I think we've had quite a few in April, so hopefully we see a few more on these inland patches. A white wag for Steve, white wag for Steve Atkinson. Lesser spotted woodpecker, bitten. Jack, there were some good birds there. Water pipit patch tick for Jeff Wyatt. Another inland kittiwake for Nigel Milburn at Blagdon. Cattle egret at Woodstock for Gareth Casban, along with an osprey. Self-found green-winged teal for Hugh Venables. Hen harrier and Gargney there with him as well on a construction site. Construction seems to be a bit of a theme of the evening at the moment. Yeah, Side Chiefs, Caspian Gull, Water Pipit. Brilliant, lovely. Slightly fewer on page 2, but there's a white winger for Ryan and some spring migrants for Gareth. And then page 3, well, Avocets, Score, Cattle egret, and patch tick ringneck parakeet. Yeah. Okay, and then we move into. I've just realised there's 5 pages of Inland South now.
It's
5
a big
pages,
league, isn't it?
It is a very big league, and Ben Rowland on page 4 has had a patch mega in the form of a marsh tit. That's a really nice one. And Rob Sawyer at the West End in Southampton's had a cormorant as well. Only his second sighting in 3.5 years.
He did a hashtag patch gold there, I think.
He did. And page 5 is a little quieter, thankfully, for my voice. Johnny Price, you're leading. Well done. 56 points at Bryn Paidew. And then Inland Wales, we've got Mark Hughes at Cause Diggers top on 80 points. Sean Sweeney at Saltney Ferry had a surprise shag, which must have been good news for him. And also a late woodcock and Singing Chiffchaffs back on territory. And Terry Wells in third, but also last on 48 points at White Bridge.
Need a few more Inland Wales patches, I think.
We do. I'll pass on to you, Pete, for the great, big, massive debate.
Okay, so every month we have a debate about some point or other, whether it be a point in the rules or just, and this one came up actually as a genuine case around Alpine Swifts, actually, in that somebody who was on patch had a phone call to say, or a notification to say that there's a Swift species flying around but unidentified. Only seen very briefly, so he went down to his patch and he located it and relocated it and identified it as Alpine Swift. So he was the first one to identify it properly, but equally knowing there's a huge movement of Alpine Swifts going on and not many Swifts around in the country, statistically the chances are it was going to be an Alpine Swift, and so it proved to be. Now actually in this case he hasn't taken bonus points for it, but it raised the question actually that if you're not the first to lay eyes on the bird, but you suspect it might be something rare. You head down to your patch, you locate it, and actually you're the first to positively identify it. Does it get bonus points? Is it a find? And I think it just raises a general question, actually. And then at what point do you set the grey area where you say, actually, it probably was more statistically likely to be an alpine than a common swift. Therefore, it was probably going to be that. But actually, you are the first to kind of lay eyes on it and positively identify it on your patch. So where does that sit?
Well, I think we chatted about this a bit last month, and my take for Patchwork Challenge has always been, if you identify it, you get the bonus points. It doesn't sit necessarily the same as self-found, but you found it for your patch. I like giving out points. I think we should be as generous as possible, make people feel like they've feel the love. But I don't know. I think we should be as generous as we can be with all our definitions on everything. However, others may have different opinions. John, have you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I mean, because it's a Swift, and then there's Alpine Swifts around, that makes it slightly different. But I mean, I've had calls when there's been something strange on my patch, and I've gone to check it out, and it's been something incredibly rare, and I don't hesitate in taking the finder points, to be honest. So I think that's reasonable. If you're the person who's identified it and you're the first to identify it, then I think you should get the points, frankly. Because if you didn't go down, certainly here, no one else would see it, and that it would be lost. You wouldn't know what that bird was. Maybe that's not true on other patches, and I can't get my head around patches where there's lots of people competing to find birds. I mean, that's something I'm not used to. But yeah, I think that's fair. I think if you're the first to identify it, then that's okay. Yeah.
I think that's a really, really good point. If you don't identify it, who has? Even if the balance of probability doesn't identify things, does it?
I mean, this one would have gone away as a Swift species if it hadn't been relocated. But then as an extension to that, if somebody sends you a picture of a bird that they've seen, a non-birder, and says, look at this, and you go down and you're the one that kind of identifies it from the photo and then goes and...
Well, this sounds remarkably similar to the one we didn't quite talk about last month, where a non-birder took a photo of some ducks on my patch, the non-birder being me, and then they looked at their photo 6 months later and realised there was a Drake green-winged teal sat on the sea next to the tufted ducks he thought might be scaup. Now, obviously, last year wasn't a Patchwork Challenge year. I don't need to worry about those pesky points. But what would I have done this year? What should I have done, Pete?
I find this one really difficult. I think you don't get the points because you've not seen it at the time.
Oh, I did see it. I saw the teal.
You can still record it. It can still be a patch.
No, I saw the teal. I remember seeing the teal. I very, very clearly remember seeing that
Eurasian teal.
Yeah, I very, very clearly misidentified it as Eurasian teal, but then I corrected my own identification, be it 6 months later with a photograph. I am, of course, an idiot. I still tend to think that I would get the points, but that might be because I have no morals.
Goes to show sometimes, though, isn't it? If you're looking for on the sea, you're looking for tufted to try and pick the scorp out. It's not what's on your mind at all. It's not the place you're expecting to see it anyway.
Have you got any thoughts, John? What would be your take coming back to something 6 months later and finding it in your photos?
Yeah, this feels like a foreign trip type thing as well, where you've seen something and you didn't know what it was at the time, but you've got a photo, and then it's become something else perhaps, but you've got the photo, so you've seen it. It's a tricky one, isn't it? I mean, I guess that's for individuals to kind of think about, but you've got the evidence that it was that bird on that day. Then it was there, wasn't it? And
but if you took the photo, you were definitely looking at it.
Well, that's a tricky thing. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there was a Bonaparte skull in Argyll the other year, which someone photographed a bunch of blackheads and then left, and then realized later when they looked at their photos there was a Bonaparte skull in amongst them. So that's a good record. That's 100% Bonaparte skull. I think people went back and it was still there and they got to see it and stuff. But yeah, it's a bit of a grey area, isn't it? I must admit, if someone sent me a photo from the patch and said, "What's this?" and you could see what it was from the photo, then I wouldn't claim the points, because they found it, they've taken the picture, and Yeah, I mean, anyone could identify. It doesn't have to be me, does it? So
Absolutely.
I wouldn't take it there. But if it's you found it, you photographed it, yeah, then I think it's kind of okay.
Yeah, I think the line in my head was, if I hadn't have recalled seeing the teal, the little group of 3 teal that were with those tufted ducks,
Yeah,
I would definitely not take it. But I do. But both Mark and Ryan have both had very strong opinion that I'm full of shit and I definitely shouldn't take the points. So apologies for my language, but I had to slip one in. So we get to 1 hour and 6 into the recording, although I think that's 15 minutes of. But yeah.
So I think that's right. I think, and in that case, I think generally speaking, then if you take the view, you get the bonus points. More down to your own discretion, I think, in your case.
Yeah,
James,
absolutely.
that sort of instance.
Yeah. Okay, we've got Court of Appeal. We've got Jacob's Dartford Warbler at Spurn. So we're going to put these two out to polls. Dartford Warbler, it's the first for Spurn. It's something like the 10th for Yorkshire. I don't have the actual numbers offhand. Spurn's had a lot of birds, so to find a new one for Spurn is really quite big. But we'll let you guys decide on whether Jacob gets any points. I guess it's a yes, no, and then how many. So we'll put that up there. And then we've got a second one. We've got red-breasted merganser in Nidderdale. It appears annually, but not in large numbers. I'm sorry, for me, that's.
I'm not sure that pushes into bonus territory.
Yeah, Pete, I'll let you share your opinions on these two.
I think Dartford Warbler's a no-brainer for me. I think if it goes out to a vote, I'll be voting yes.
Okay, that's.
I think if you find a first for that location and that kind of scarcity, then I think absolutely, definitely. Red-breasted merganser. I think anything that appears annually, I don't think attracts a bonus as a principle.
No,
it's a great bird. It's a great inland bird. I mean, when I used to bird up at the other side of Keithley, I had a red-breasted merganser up there, and it's a fantastic inland bird, but I don't think it gets the bonus points.
No, they don't breed in Yorkshire, but they breed not very far away from Nidderdale when you go up the Pennines. So, yeah. John, have you got any thoughts on these two?
The same as you. The first one, no-brainer, and the second one, nice bird, but no.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll move on. On. Okay, and so we've got last month's Court of Appeal. This was supposed to do some special flying in, but it's not done that. So Sean at Winterton had a raven. We all laughed at it and said it was only worth 1 point. We put it out to the vote, 1 point or 2 points. I think it's about 40% said 1 point, 60% said 2 points, more or less. We had a think. We think the direction of travel. We think this is biased by the fact there's so many Southerners. But
I voted 2 points as well. I've never had a raven. not my coastal one.
Oh, I think they breed on your patch, don't they? So yeah, we've decided to give Sean a bonus point essentially, because we think that, fair enough. East Anglia, they're a pretty good bird. If you think they're rare for your patch in East Anglia, we think a bonus point is fair. But away from that, we're going to keep it at 1 point because the direction of travel for raven in terms of status is one way at the moment. They're becoming much more common and they're spreading much more widely. And we think if we downgrade them now, especially given we're 4 months into the competition, it's going to cause issues with the spreadsheet, and then we're going to have to change the score in a couple of months and a couple of years. Sorry. So that's our logic. I'm really sorry if you don't like it, but well done to Sean, a good bird. We've got a couple of other. So here we go. Do you want to talk us through these, Pete?
So Isle of Wight white-tailed eagles. So after the feature, as they start to go on their travels, etc., and I've seen them certainly in the north of England as they go sort of Farndale the other year. There was Isle of Wight eagles up there. So soft and southies or majestic plastic fantastic. So what a tight result that is. going to cause some controversy, isn't it? No points or 2 points, and no points wins out.
I think.
Yeah, and I think if you have, it's a difficult one, this, because I mean, if you have a white-tailed eagle that's going on tour that goes over your house, as they do at various time of year, you really do see them. Many people do pick them up, but what a bird to see flying over your house! What an experience to see it, and it doesn't detract from that.
No,
but there's always a difficult debate around the plastic debate.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I think this doesn't mean that white-tailed eagles in the south of England are worth no points. We're aware that that there are plenty of Dutch birds passing through, that there are even Scottish wandering birds down the east coast these days. So I think just on this, it seems that the status quo is probably the right position at the moment, especially with the southern birds. That might change in not too long. But I think 0 points for those that we suspect or know are from the reintroduction scheme. We're going to stick with 0 for the time being. However, that could change. I think we're open to discussions. And if you think your bird's from passing through southern England and it's come from the Netherlands or Germany or further afield, then yeah, by all means claim the points. We're not going to argue too hard with you.
There'll be loads of requests to the Isle of Wight tracking system, won't there, to see?
Yeah.
It's definitely not an Isle of Wight bird.
Roy Dennis's website's going to be lit up when they get claims. And then we've got another one quite similar. We've got the Great Bustards from the reintroduction program. So we've got a majority of, yes, they should be given points, but there's no consensus on how many points they should be given. And I think
there's a majority sat in 1 point there, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It certainly isn't 3 and 5.
No,
I don't
know.
So
and Hell No has 40% of the vote, so maybe not quite yet.
That's 40% of people who've got no chance of getting one of those great busters.
John, have you got any thoughts on? I mean, presumably you get real white-tailed eagles fairly regularly on Tiree now.
Yeah, we do. I've noticed. I mean, they used to be a scarce bird, didn't they? Used to get extra points for white-tailed eagles. They've dropped already. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be a widespread feature, I think, in 5-10 years time. And then it's at some point you've got to realise if there are pairs breeding on the Isle of Wight, at what point do the youngsters become real, tickable? I don't know. I mean, I'm just throwing those questions out there as rhetorical ones, but and possibly the same with bustards. I mean, they're doing quite well, aren't they, on Salisbury Plain? So once you've established a breeding population and they're spreading, at what point, it's like category D species, isn't it? At some point you kind of say, oh yeah, well actually they are part of the avifauna. And
yeah, it's where do you draw that line? I think it's quite a difficult one, and I think it's probably easier for the white-tailed eagles to draw a line because you know what generation they're an apex predator. There's fewer birds. You know where they are generationally. You know when a bird's obviously with category C, it's basically when the bird's the offspring of wild-boar birds. That's when it's category C. That's going to take quite a long time for southern white-tailed eagles. We're talking 15 years probably. But for great bustards with such a dynamic population and where they are, they're saying from inside the great bustard group, it is self-sustaining. And it's one of these things that's been an organic project. I think I voted for 1 point. I definitely voted for points on this because I think this one's probably got the momentum. It's taken a long time. It's taken a lot of effort, but I think it's an interesting one. However, there isn't a consensus. We maybe stick with the status quo for the time being, but I think it's one that we'll have to revisit at the end of the year and probably the end of every year until we decide, it's time to stick them on.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Excellent. Right. Well, we'll just look at some outrageous attempts at points.
Yeah, a couple of these. So we had
two
beautiful Reeves pheasants. An attempt to claim bonus points. The emoji is noted, Adam, that it wasn't a serious request.
Oh, Adam Bassett, go home, you're drunk. Yeah,
that's especially with the lovely pheasant feeder in the background as well.
Oh dear, what, we've got another one as well.
So a Jesus mallard, so an attempt to really stretch the
Oh,
mallard
yeah, it's
into
walking
something a
and
little bit different.
yeah.
So yeah, nice attempt, but quiet month clearly in
Yeah.
in Sam Gallard's patch in March.
It does touch on a serious point in our score sheet. Some people are having issues with curlew. It does sometimes autocorrect to curlew sandpiper. Don't take the extra points. Just add one on for curlew if you're having issues. We're very sorry. We'll try and fix the spreadsheet for next year. Right. And
Okay.
then session 3 for the mini leagues.
Well, Ryan's not turned up, so I don't mind tackling this one if you want.
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Okay. We are now very deep into the recording. Go as fast as you can.
I shall speed up. I think the last bits are quite quick as well. So
right, no non-scarce comments. Let's go.
On to next.
Yeah.
So the Islands League. I feel like John ought to talk through this one really, actually, given it is your league.
Okay, if you want. Right, so we have Texel coming in first. So that's new to have a Dutch island in the Islands League, I think. Is that the first year?
First year we've gone international. Yeah.
And I think we're going to all struggle to match that island, I suspect. But there we go. We'll find out. Be interesting to see. And I must admit, at the end of every year, you're not competing against your neighbours. You compete against yourself from previous years. I mean, that's how I find patch birding. So it's always interesting to see what's going on elsewhere. So Bruce is my neighbour, Bruce Taylor on Barra. So he's doing nicely. I didn't realise we had the same number of points. Actually, that's interesting. So yeah, he's had a cracking start to the year with his Harlequin duck and all the rest. So fair play to him. I had my Todd's Canada Goose and also Redneck Grebe, which was my first here in 22 years. So that was a patch gold, really. They're very rare on the West Coast. And then, yeah, Scott Reed, I'm sure he's got a few more points than that now coming up in April. But yeah, quite a closely contested league, I think. This will be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, it's always a fabulous league.
Yeah, and then onto the 3K one for you.
Okay, so this is the 3K Islands, and again Texel leading the way. So Vincent there had Medgull and Firecrest fresh in, late snow bunting and longtail tit patch gold. So there you go, classic island. Longtail tit. That's a rare one out here too.
You had a few of those, didn't you, John? Didn't you have a few of those?
I've had a few over the years. They're very eruptive. You get a few and then none for years. So it's always a good one to see. So my patch gold was Stock Dove. Scott Reed on Sully's had Lesser Kestrel, found by Bob Flood, but even that, to see it on his patch must have been fantastic. Corn Bunting, there's the one I want. So he's had that too. Yeah, and Migrant's very slow. So no March Wheatie for the time. That's amazing, isn't it? That no March Wheatie is on Sully. Incredible, actually.
It's really late, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I guess it has been a pretty late spring, but even so. So Dave Roche on Papa Westray. So he had 11 new species in March, including rook. I know that's a good island bird. First wheatear. So the first wheatear reached Westray, but not on Scilly. That's bizarre, isn't it?
Silly to get to Westray.
How does that happen? And a very high count of 120 Great Northern Divers. Very nice. Dave Parnaby on Fair Isle. Early-ish Chiff Chaff. Stock Dove, which he twitched. Sorry. Okay. And that's interesting, having islands where you have other people, other birders. I'm not used to that. But Stock Dove again, so that's two there. Steve Dudley on Westray. He's had Albifron's White-fronted Goose. Rook again, that's patch gold, but only 1 point. There you go. That's the nature of the beast, isn't it? Two cranes on Guernsey. That's a good record. Askanish South Uist, first wall of the year was a Chiff Chaff, squeezed in on the last day of March. Bardsey had a tree creeper. Now that's a mega island bird to get a tree creeper. We dream of such things. And on Orkney, Harray, West Mainland, Yellowhammer and White-fronted Goose, both new for the patch. That's good records too. So yeah, a competitive list again. And Yvonne Benting on South Uist, again Chiff Chaff. I think that might be the same Chiff Chaff that was on the other page.
I'd imagine so. Probably not quite as glamorous as their shared Jaya Falcon from 2013, but Right, Pete, do you want to crack on with the?
Here we go.
Here we go.
Stepping into Netherlands territory, so Netherlands 10-kilometer league. So Rob there, really big lead now with 172 points at the top. But Arnold as well, also topping that 100. So Arnold had the couple of greater flamingos that ended up not being tickable. But yeah, both of those getting over 100 points early there.
Sorry, I was getting my scrolling finger ready.
And Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, so the 3-kilometer league, with all of them in it. So we've got Ben up at the top there. He's already had some really good birds this year. 169 points. Self-found red kite first for the patch. It's a nice patch tick. Female Gargany and black neck green, but he's had a really, really good start. And then two of them are topping the 100-point mark at the end of March with Maurice there at Rottermeren, also at 105 points. So really good stuff. I'll give it a go. I'm sure I'll be corrected. So overall top 10 at the end of the league. So overall top 10 at the moment. And Vincent, you've already said there, John, that he may be hard to catch this year, I think, on an Islands league, and he's really top in the leagues at 196 points, just 4 adrift of the 200 mark already. But I mean, that 200 mark at the end of March, and Nigel Hound at Gibraltar Point is really not that far away in the 10-kilometer league too. And then Rob, as we just mentioned there, so some cracking scores in there. Green top 10. So on your bike, Mark Gollitt Cly, we've seen him having a great year, 192 points. They'll be breaking the 200-point barrier already by April soon. Jacob Spinks at Spurn, really. Spurn always starts a little bit slow in January, so, and then really starts to ramp up. So we'll see that coming through. And Vincent there at Texel, so all good green patches, and we do like to promote a bit of green patching. And overall top 10. Yeah, for the 3-kilometer league. Yeah, that's right. So yeah, Mark Golly. So again, he continues to be at the top on that 192 points, with Tim and Jacob not too far behind. Be interesting to see what happens in April and May. It should really ramp up. And Ben with his red patch tick there in fourth. Some brilliant scores all the way down there.
10 patches over 150 points before the end of March is a really, really good achievement. We know some of these guys are going to be hitting 350, 400 points by the end of the year, but that's some good scores already.
Some mouth-watering locations in the list too. So quickly then on through these last little bits. So we've got Patch Gold. So Patch Gold, you have the best finds, but Patch Gold's what it's all about. So ticking those things that never turn up on your patch is just as special to the patcher as the rare stuff. So Vincent Stork, long-tailed tits. We've already talked about long-tailed tits.
Yeah, but he's twitched it. I've just seen he's twitched it. Oh my lord! I mean, you've got to do it, but yeah.
Oh yeah. You've got only a 6th record on the patch in 10 years. Yeah, you don't give those ones up easily if you're not a find. Steve Dudley there. So you might think it's a black red start, but no, it's the Rooks on the right hand side. Only 1 point he put earlier. There could be a court of appeal there, Steve, if you want to put that in for next month.
Oh, that's good luck with that.
And here we go, a bit of Patch Gold for you, John.
Yeah, so wood pigeon. Yeah, just not a common bird out this way at all. They don't breed, they don't winter. Get the odd ones on passage, but to get 2 together in the garden early in the patch year, that's got to be good. Yeah.
And a stock dove.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah. So Redshank. Not quite silly is the Twitter hashtag for Gavin. Yeah, another one that's Patch Gold, regular enough on most people's patches where they got water.
Right.
And then we even replied to this one. It was so notable that, again, I think it's what Patchwork Challenge is all about, actually, which is why you kind of put it in there, gazing in awe and wonder and grinning from ear to ear at a collared dove. And it kind of really does sum things up really rather well. That actually it's those moments that make it special, and every patch is individual.
Just think in 10 years' time, that's going to be Blackwing Kite that we're doing this for, Patch Gold.
Yeah, probably.
Right. And then
just a little bit of Ultimate Patch Gold.
I wonder what this could be.
Some cracking stuff in here. So we've got the Rooks. We've got a pheasant, which is brilliant. We talked about Jane's pheasant earlier, where she birds from her house. She's, as she notes herself, probably the only person apart from Island patches that are going to be shouting mega at a pheasant. Scott Reed corn bunting. So John, you've already said that's the one you want. Full fat Patch Gold silly tick for Scott. only 6 records for the islands in the last 15 years. So yeah, that's a cracker. And to be fair, corn bunting, patch gold's all about the coot, isn't it? But
yeah, brilliant.
And then finally, yeah, classic blue tip. So much so that had to be noted as behaving naturally unringed and full-winged, flew off south, quick in the range, parking if it returns.
Sounds good up
great
at
fun, Rob. I didn't hear of the big twitch happening, so it can't come back. But
gone to ground. But well done, Rob. That's fantastic.
Yeah, classic patch gold that.
And we got a bit of confusion.
A couple of confusion hashtags. So our hashtag PwC 2023 is getting confused a lot. So when we're going through our hashtags for the pictures, we're getting all sorts. So we aren't running a cherry blossom vendor event in March. So you'll be disappointed if you turned up to that, I think, in Salisbury Centre. So apologies if you thought that was us. We're not involved with the Six Nations rugby.
Is that not me, you, Ryan, and
what, hugging?
Yeah. Oh, Mark, yeah, Ryan's definitely not doing any hugging, is he? So
yeah. That was on the evening of our Spurn trip. So yes, we're not doing rugby, and this one we just need to point out that we're not hiring 30,000 employees either. We have gone international, but we haven't grown that much yet.
No.
So again, if you're thinking of putting an application in, we've not grown that far yet. But you never know. 3-4 years time, who knows?
Absolutely. And then Amy Rob John's record shot.
So
she's got her own section now, Pete.
Yeah. So record shot of the month. As I trawled through looking for best finds and things like that, there's some brilliantly appalling record shots. And Amy Rob Johns, for anybody who doesn't know, over the years had some brilliant red arrows to point to birds in the photographs to help.
Usually sea watching.
Usually a small black blob with an arrow to help assist. So in her honour, here is a record shot of the month. So yes, you feature again, John, here in terms of what we trust to be the first migrant Goldcrest of the year.
Yeah, I'm really chuffed to be in this. That's the highlight of the evening for me. I didn't realise this was going to happen, but it's a classic lone patch watcher. You tend to try and record everything, or at least I do on camera. Just so that there's a record and people believe what you're seeing. And Goldcrests are really tricky. The light was bad, and blowing a hoolie, and I got something that you can just about see is a Goldcrest. So yeah, I'm happy.
There is enough there, and a classic record shot gives you just enough to be able to see what it is.
Does it rule out Golden Crown Kinglet?
Yes.
Is that an emperor penguin? That's fantastic.
There's just about enough there, I think. Just about.
Yeah, absolutely. That looks very similar to my one earlier in the month.
Indeed, and I think that might be the red-breasted merganser we talked about earlier in Yorkshire. 4 greylegs, Tim Farr, photographic evidence provided. So again,
what's it evidence of, though? That's the question.
If you stare at it long enough, I think it's like magic eye.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally, the shot of the month, just one more. The pair of Gargany on the Don.
I saw that.
This attracted quite a few comments for Phil, bless him, who had a fantastic to get a pair of Gargany on there. Absolutely brilliant record. But yeah, it's quite a picture. Can't even see which one's the male. I'm not even sure I can see a
I can't see it. Well done, Phil.
But he only had his phone with him, bless him. It's one of those moments when you get caught out where you don't expect it and you've only got your phone. But no, cracking record all the same. But yeah, one heck of a record shot. And we're coming to an end. So yeah, PwC predictions for May.
So for May, can I make a confession? Last month, I very, very nearly went for White Crowned Sparrow, and now I feel like I should have stuck to my guns and actually said it. So I'm gonna, I'm an idiot. But for May, what do you reckon? John? What are your thoughts? What's going to turn up in May?
So we're talking a mega here, are we? That could turn up in May? Is that
just anything actually as well?
Anything you think you might have, like something to aspire to, and anyone might have.
Right. Okay. Well, I'd aspire to a corn bunting. There we go. I'm still plugging for that. And then for anyone else, oh gosh, I don't know. Roller
would be nice, wouldn't it? I think this month I'm going to go for that Blackwing kite. No, not that one. Another one. I think there's going to be an influx of Blackwing kites. I think someone is going to get that for Patchwork Challenge. Pete?
I don't know. I've not even thought this one through. I normally answer in terms of what I want to turn up on a patch, which I would take. When we talked about Hooper earlier. That'd be a fantastic bin. There's a couple up Whitby Way last year that I dipped on. It would be nice to get one of those on patch. We had a good block of beaters hanging around Whitby as well the other year. It'd be nice for those to go that way.
Excellent.
But yes, I've not thought in terms of a mega. So
okay, well, I think we should probably wrap it up there because we are
so.
very, very deep into this. We tried to make it shorter. It is longer. I'm
it
very
never
sorry.
Happens, does it?
It never happens. But thank you very
mode.
much for sticking with us. I hope you have had a good April. We will try and turn around April's sooner. I would like to promise. I cannot promise, but we will do our very best. Have a great spring and we'll catch you all soon. Thanks very much, John.
Yeah, many thanks, John.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys. Cheers.